what is next for Justin Trudeau? Peter MacKay is standing by. He is a former Justice, Foreign Affairs, National Defence Minister, serving in many portfolios in the Conservative government of Stephen Harper. Peter, always good to have you part of our coverage here today. I mean, let's play it out here. Your thoughts on what's going through Justin Trudeau's mind on this Tuesday?
Well, all of the commentary denotes this feeling of uncertainty and certainly unpredictability coming from the United States of America. I mean, the pressure has to be just, crushing for Mr. Trudeau to lose his finance minister, to have his own party really in disarray. The opposition party are doing what opposition parties should do, and that's calling the government out and calling for accountability. The problem, of course, is this really couldn't come at a worse time. We have a lot of really difficult financial headwinds in the country. We know that the possibility of tariffs looms large after the inauguration. And so all of these calls for Mr. Trudeau to step aside, many will be watching the weather to see if there's any snow in the forecast for him to walk in.
I'm also curious, and I appreciate the reference, of course, to his father and what happened back in 1984 with Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Your thoughts on what we're hearing from the Conservative leader about the government being weak, Trudeau being pathetic, Canada being a laughingstock, Trump looking at all of this with glee. Do you agree with some of that language?
Well, it is very strong language, there's no question. And certainly the difficulty for our country reputationally, and at a time when the incoming administration in the United States has already indicated quite clearly they expect more from Canada. Well, to get more, you need to be able to perform and to pass legislation and to be able to make big decisions around our border, our security, the Arctic, trying to right the ship financially, which is presumably what the fall economic statement, now kind of bleeding into a winter economic statement, was supposed to do. We blew through the guardrails of deficit spending. All of this looks really does look chaotic and to some degree weak for a country that, is a G7 country, is a NATO member country, is a country that many used to aspire to be like. Nobody is going to want to emulate Canada in its current state.
I'm curious as well if you can give us any kind of insights as to, the sort of advice that Trudeau may or may not be getting. We would imagine he's got top advisors who are perhaps saying, look, this is all going to blow over. Let's not get caught in the reeds. Let's focus on, trying to get through this. Today's the last day of the House of Commons. Then the House rises until, later on in January. And whether they are kind of living in a delusional bubble, they're telling him what he might want to hear. Is he not able to kind of read what's going on, read the room, so to speak? Like, how do you think that's actually playing out behind closed doors?
Well, Todd, the way you've described it is quite apt. I think he is relying on people who have lived for far too long inside the Beltway in Ottawa and are not getting the temperature, so to speak, of what average Canadians think and feel about the Prime Minister. And he is very determined. He has sort of weathered lots of weather references here, but he has come through these sort of challenges recently. The loss of Chrystia Freeland, though, is of a different sort. I'm going to make another historic reference here. When John Turner left as finance minister in his father's government almost 50 years ago, that had a similar ripple effect across the country and sort of brought about that same sense of uncertainty for the government of the day. We in Canada right now need a government. We need somebody who is, strong at the wheel, has their eye on the future, not their own political future, but that of our country. That doesn't appear to be what we are seeing coming from Justin Trudeau. And he may simply succumb to this over the holiday period. Upon reflection, he may realize that the longer he stays, the worse it is, not only for his party, but for the country as well.
Yeah, maybe this is a headache. I don't need this. I'm out. I've had, 9.5 years. I'm also trying to get a sense whether they actually think they can win the next election. And I don't just mean given all the drama that's playing out in the last 24 to 48 hours. I'm talking about, poll after poll, Peter, for going back almost 2 years now, showing them so far behind the Conservatives, in the sense that they're, trying different maneuvers and tactics, maybe, switching out certain ministers, trying this, trying to refresh, rebrand, GST tax holiday, whatever it may be. Is that going to make really any difference at the end of the day?
I think, Todd, the brand damage, if I can put it that way, is so deep that even bringing in a new leader, Mark Carney being the obvious one that's been talked about, I don't know that it would make a difference at this point. The incumbency tends to work against governments after 2, let alone 3 terms. And, the economic woes that people are feeling, this affordability crisis is real, it's deep. These political gimmicks, as Chrystia Freeland referred to them, they're not going to have the desired effect. There's just no other way to put it. And so I don't think a fresh paint of coat or a fresh coat of paint or a new leader is really going to bring about a change in public opinion. The polls seem to have, they may go up marginally, but they are set. Even the by-election loss in BC is another indication. So the days are numbered, I think, for Mr. Trudeau and his time as Prime Minister.
Yeah, the Conservatives winning that by-election in Cloverdale, Langley City in Metro Vancouver. Hey, I've got another question. This is now turning into something of a parlor game. You were in Ottawa for many years. You know how this plays out. Everybody's saying, does he stay? Does he go? Does he leave? Does he hang tight? What's your read based on what you've observed? I don't know how well you know him personally, but just, what you've observed in his time as, Liberal leader and then Prime Minister, given his pedigree as the son of a Prime Minister. Do you think he stays or do you think he goes?
Well, that's a tough call. It is the big question. I do know him a little. His office was down the hall from me when he first arrived. I think he's a stubborn man. I think that the more people push him to go, the more he sees this as being not the right time for him personally. And again, I don't want to make this personal because he has endured, as many politicians have, the trials and tribulations of office, the slings and arrows that come your way. We saw another minister, Sean Fraser, step aside recently and gave very heartfelt reasons, wanting to spend time with his family. For Mr. Trudeau, though, this is, almost a sense that he had of destiny. I don't know that he wants to leave in such an inglorious way. I don't know that he wants to be seen to be, proverbially pushed out the door or dragged kicking and screaming, however you want to describe it. And so that stubbornness, I think, is what stands in the way from him making that clear break and deciding to leave on his own terms. If he wants to go down in an election, in some fashion, he may see that as the last chance, the last vestige of his leadership. But either way, I think the outcome is inevitable. The latest that he will be Prime Minister is October of 2025, but I suspect strongly it may happen much sooner.
Peter MacKay joining us from Nova Scotia, former leader himself of the Progressive Conservative Party of Canada. He served as Foreign Affairs, National Defence, Justice Ministers in the governments of Stephen Harper as well. Peter, always great to see you. Thanks for your insights today. We'll talk again.
Thank you, Todd. The very best.